my paranormal people. This week I'm doing a tale and it's called The Kelpie of Loch Ness. It comes from a book that was published in 1823 by William Grant Stewart. It's a collection of Scottish legends and superstitions. It's got some folk tales in there as well. Sit back, have a listen to this wonderful story, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. So, Mr. Stewart, the author of the book, supposedly got this tale from a Mr. Wellix. Mr. Wellix claimed that this tale had happened to one of his own ancestors, and that his family still had proof that the incident took place. In or around the time of Mr. Wilcox's ancestor, one James McGregor, the area of Loch Ness was being terrorised by the predations of a waterhorse that would wander the roads near the loch in the guise of a riding horse that was fully equipped. When a foolish person chose to mount the animal, the Kelpie would fly off into the air and sink into either Loch Spiny or Loch Ness to eat the victim at the monster's own leisure. McGregor, having heard of the many attacks of this particular Kelpie, came to desire a chance to meet the monster and end its predations. As it worked out, he got that chance. One day Mr. McGregor was travelling down a solitary pass on the road between Strathspey and Inverness. The Scotsman ran across a riding horse, fully decked out, quietly eating grass on the roadside. McGregor knew instantly that this must be the very beast he had heard so much about, and so he approached the horse as if to mount it. Then he drew his sword and struck the creature across the nose, almost dropping the animal right there and right then. The stroke had cut through the creature's bridle, and one of the bits fell at McGregor's feet. The Scotsman, out of curiosity, picked up the bit as the Kelpie gathered its wits, and he placed the bit in his pocket as he prepared to renew his battle with the monster. What happened next was rather strange. The Kelpie chastised the Scotsman for his behaviour and pointed out that McGregor had no right or reason in attacking the Kelpie, as the Kelpie had not attacked him. It stated that the Scotsman's actions were both cruel and illegal, and that it would be justified in returning the attack twofold. But the beast disliked such quarrels, and therefore was willing to overlook the whole matter if McGregor peacefully returned the bit to it. McGregor replied with a very frank opinion of both the nature of the monster and its occupation. Strangely, the Kelpie took the abuse and then stated that it had no choice in its occupation, as it was the only way the Kelpie could make an honest living, and it requested the bit from the bridle back again. It was now obvious that the Kelpie's non-violent behaviour was based around one simple objective. It wanted the bridle bit back, very badly. Mr. McGregor was a very curious man, so he decided to ask the Kelpie why he needed the bit returning so badly, but added that he would return the bit if the beast could satisfy his curiosity by giving him some account of the bit's use and its qualities. Eagerly the Kelpie explained that the bit in the bridle was essentially a present from the devil himself, and that the small object held miraculous qualities that allowed the Kelpie to change shape, overpower foes, and to fool people in the way that his detestable occupation required. As a further fact, the Kelpie would not survive 24 hours without the bit in its power, but it was avoiding conflict with McGregor, for he could now utilise the very powers for himself. In addition to all that, looking through the hole in the bit would also allow the users a second sight, the ability to see invisible beings and spirits in the world around them. McGregor, realising he couldn't let such a powerful object back into the hands of a monster, simply turned around and started to walk home. All the long way the Kelpie followed the Scotsman, telling him tales of the horrors it had unleashed on humans that had dared such an affront against it, all quickly followed by the insincere promises that it would in no way show disrespect to McGregor if he chose to return the bit to it instantly. Occasionally the Kelpie forgot the Scotsman's advantage, but a quick flourish of McGregor's sword and the Kelpie immediately quieted down and began anew its attempts to convince the Scotsman to surrender the bit civilly. When McGregor eventually reached home, The Kelpie's state of mind became desperate. Its need for the bridle bit in order to survive led it to run ahead of the Scotsman and to firmly position itself in front of the door to his house. The Kelpie announced very simply that MacGregor would never pass through his door while in possession of the bit, and the creature then prepared itself for the battle to come. The Kelpie was far too focused on its own goals and stayed right in place as MacGregor walked round the back of his house. At the back window, MacGregor called his wife over to him and then tossed the magical bit of the Kelpie's bridle through the window to her. Having done this, the Scotsman walked back to the front of the house where the desperate monster awaited his attempt to get past it, and then he announced that the bit was now in fact within his home. The Kelpie could not enter the house. A Rowan cross was above the door, a sure block to all devilish creatures. Finding itself with no hope of changing its fate, the broken beast walked away, spewing the most horrid opinions of the Scottishman, James MacGregor. As I've already stated, MacGregor's family retained ownership of the Kelpie's bit, at least until the time this tale was told to William Grant Stewart, and then it was included in his book of Scottish Folklore in 1823. So that's the tale of the Kelpie of Loch Ness. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed telling it to you. And, as a little added bonus, if you pop over to the Google Books, you can pick up an EPUB version free of charge. I'll pop a link in the description. Thanks very much for joining me again this week, and I'll see you soon. Bye!